Great to be here. And this is my very good and old friend, not that old, Paul Heydon. And he could say the same about me. I'm David Helgason, also founder of Unity and quite active angel in the last few years. But actually, Paul has much more experience investing in game companies than I. And I think we're supposed to talk about investing in games,
yeah,
which is a passion of ours and something. How long have you done it?
I have been investing in game companies for 9 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, but I've been working with game companies for 20 years. So.
Well, I've been in the game industry for like 16. Several years in the basements don't really count.
Yeah.
So there's a few topics maybe we should cover, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think because David and I have been, writing our own checks in game companies, we got asked to do this panel and just wanted to sort of share a few thoughts, share maybe a few examples, and maybe a few tips at the end about, why you would want to get a super angel in the game sector, what they're sort of generally looking for. Maybe what they're not looking for.
What freaks us out the most.
Yeah. What they're not looking for, how best to sort of reach out to us, or a super angel in general. And then maybe just share a few examples of things that, we thought were really good or were really bad. And, I guess sort of a big thought or idea is that a lot of game companies obviously go out to raise money. And David and I were actually talking about this earlier. It's like, actually, going out to raise money is one thing, but who you go out to raise money for is a whole other thing. And, not every game company should actually go out and raise money because you bring on a lot of different implications depending on who you're raising the money for.
One way I think about it is that I really love the game industry. In fact, my whole career feels like it's been like a love letter to the game industry. But I think some of that love is when you start investing in a game company, you force it sort of to think of itself or become an investment object, and not all studios, not all teams really are like living up to that or like should try to force themselves to do that. And I think things can go pretty badly when companies that really don't want to build a business or build a scalable business still try to raise money.
Yeah, because it's that's a good point, because your ambition or goal could be very different from what we're looking for. And actually, why don't we talk about that?
Sure. Yep, and sort of I have an investment thesis which has a couple of elements that are not so important, but the last one is it's my children's money. So, which it really is, because it's sort of what they inherit or not. So basically the logic is even though I love something, even though I even really like the people, if I don't think it's going to make money for my kids, I probably shouldn't do it. Which is a bit of a forcing function to avoid sort of things that are like just lovely or cute or interesting. But yeah, so no, let's see. So when you go out and look for game companies to invest in, and by the way, which stages do you work at?
So I'm investing, from time.
You should launch the fund.
Well, I've just launched a firm, and we've made a few investments. But basically, I'm investing from the time a company actually gets started, all the way up to sort of very late stage. Companies are worth like hundreds of millions. So I'm more than just an angel now. I'm back as a VC, but even when I was an angel, that's what I was looking for. But I think generally, I'm looking for founders that are incredibly ambitious, that want to build something very big, and they want to do it because they're passionate about the idea and the team and everything. They're not doing it to become the next billionaire, because.
And anything that lets you sort of think that's not the case becomes a red flag,
yeah.
Right? Anything that was like unclear, like whether they even like each other or where they really care about the product, the give us money and then we'll make something.
Yeah.
Like as in, like they haven't actually built anything yet. Like everything that takes away from these kind of smoking big and they're kind of already moving becomes a red flag, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and people that are going to give their all to the business, because doing a startup, I mean, you have to be prepared to make massive sacrifices or compromises, because there's going to be horrible times, there's going to be great times, and there's times when you have to be working late on a Saturday night, or you have to go borrow money in your credit card, or God knows what you got to do.
Fire your friends.
Yeah. And so founders who, and then again, it's thinking about founders who are going to have the ability to sort of pivot or find the right opportunity to really go after, because how a business starts is not the way it ends up. And as David said, sometimes there's tough decisions where you got to fire people fast, where you got to find money fast, where you got to find customers fast, where you got to generate revenue fast, and the sort of the speed of decision making and how you really think about things is incredibly important. So basically, companies founders who really want to go out, build something very ambitious, can make decisions very fast, considers. It's not the money that is the limiting factor, it's the time. Money gives you more time. That's part of how I see it. Yeah. And so you got to be, so we look for great founders, ideally, who've done companies before, but that's not a criteria either way, but people who really want to build something big. So when just pitching one game is sort of less interesting. Pitching a vision for how you want to build a big business is a lot more interesting. And I guess talking about why you would want to get an angel and how you might want to get an angel and how you sort of build in this syndicate and sort of raising some money. So, typical seed round these days is probably between sort of $1 and $2 million. Not many angels are going to write checks for that size. So you're going to have to put a group of people together. So it's not about necessarily finding the person who writes the biggest check, but finding the person who's going to bring the most value to you in terms of helping to put together that round, helping you to, going to be able to help you with your business, think about your product, helping you recruit, helping you to find partners. I mean, if you're building a game with Apple and Google, and how do they think? How do you think about UA and just all that stuff? Other things to add to
I don't know. Like, one thing I look for is just sizzle. Like, these are cultural products, and it's. I see a lot of stuff. Like, maybe because I came up through Unity and helped build that. I see just a lot of people that are building interesting things, and they're really smart. And some of them come and they show something that's very smart, but it's not. It doesn't have like energy or love, or it's not weird. Sometimes you feel like somebody went off a checklist of how to build a game as a service, and it doesn't, differentiate, or so. I pass on a lot of things like for that reason.
Differentiation is really important. I mean,
but it's tough because but no, I don't know.
So why is whatever you're going to do different? Why are you going to win?
Yeah. Just noticeability and like people. There's a lot of products out there.
Yeah, particularly if we're talking about game development. If you're going to build a strategy game, how are you going to win against all the other strategy games out there? Because that's essentially what you're competing against.
Yeah.
How are you going to be able to recruit great to raise your next funding round? I think David and I both agree that we have to see the potential for you to actually and believe that you can do those things. Otherwise, putting money in it's basically crazy.
A lot of this stuff fails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that we're going to have to write off money sometimes. Sure. That's part of the business, but it's trying to find the right ones that are going to be able to really grow really fast is what really matters. One of the things that I wrote a little blog on about recently is just sort of that initial communication with an investor. I'm always amazed, and I continue to be amazed, that founders will put so much work into sort of putting the team together, the vision, putting a deck together, and then they send a message on LinkedIn. It's like, hey, I'm building mobile games. Can I send you a deck? I'm like, really? Why is that going to get my attention?
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with LinkedIn? Besides the shitty software.
Well, that's a whole other story. But anyways, is you have to sort of be able to grab my attention, because you have to realize that I probably got like 30 other emails and messages like that. And I probably deleted all of them because it's like, there's no differentiations. You have to be thinking is like, what's going to get an investor?
And a version of that maybe, is that you get this LinkedIn message with a deck, and you open the deck, and there's like 3 different games, and like you get the distinct sense that none of them have been made, but somebody's hoping that you pick one for them. Again, complete lack of, with us, this kind of lack of like necessity. Yeah.
And and going back to sort of reason to get a super angel in the round is that, I guess, David and I have both been fortunate with our past, so we've had, David has done very well with Unity, some of his investments. I've had a pretty good track record as an investor. So, when we say, all right, we want to invest in a company, and then we start telling some other investors, then we tend to get their attention. So that they're at least going to look at it. There's obviously no guarantee that they're going to. And then it helps to then start sort of building a group of investors. Maybe you get some more angels coming in, maybe you get some smaller VCs coming in, and it just comes together. Because it's really about sort of the value and the insight of that group that really matters. So you have to really think about the people that you're going to get to invest. Because you want to get the smartest people in the room, not necessarily the people with the biggest checks in the room. Because that's what really makes a difference.
Yeah.
And just other things is.
Can you tell us about tell me about like a recent deal you did that you were happy with, that you can announce or talk about? Or like where something clicked right?
Yeah. So let's say, okay. So I was introduced to a founder in LA who was building interactive game shows on mobile, as a streaming within the app. I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And I just got off the phone with someone who's going to do that, but for betting games. And I didn't really believe in that because too many regulations and stuff. So I got on the phone with this guy, and it's just like, I was just thinking, game shows on mobile apps, this makes a ton of sense. And yes, he's competing against HQ Trivia, which some of you may have heard of. But they're burning like $1 million a month. This guy is bootstrapping it more. He sold his last business, made his investor some money. And it's like, it just sort of, it was checking a lot of boxes. I got excited, and the guy was just honest. You could just feel that sort of honesty over the phone. And then I ended up meeting him in person, and I ended up doubling what I was going to invest in, and doubling my commitment to invest, just because I met the guy in person, and you had that sort of interaction. It was just like, that's the power of being in person. Particularly if you can sell yourself well in person, is you get that much more personal connection. That's why as an investor I prefer meeting in person. I think that's why if you're raising money you should prefer meeting in person. It doesn't always happen, but just getting that and getting excited about the opportunity and everything was really good. Versus sometimes I'll meet founders that just haven't really thought through why they want to build something, how are they going to become successful? How are they going to get users? I mean, it's sad, but I meet so many game developers that just don't know how they're going to go out and get users. And if you don't know how to get users, how are you going to build a business? Because the key skill set at the beginning, not expect that you're going to have to go out and hire all those people.
Which is hard, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
What about you? What have you seen?
So maybe a slightly sort of unusual one. It's Raw Fury, which some of you may know. It's actually a game, like a sort of a, what do you call it, like a premium game publisher for grown-ups. I guess you might call it. It's an old friend of mine. It's Jonas Antonsson. Like he's had a long career in games. He did something on Facebook when that was a thing, and then he did some other mobile stuff or whatever. And it always felt he was checking boxes, like he was working really hard. He did some good work, by the way, and it wasn't actually completely unsuccessful, although it failed eventually. That is more like felt a bit rote. Then he worked for Paradox for a while, where he learned a bunch. And then at some point he came out kind of with the thing he wanted to do his whole life, which is just very serious, very kind of hardcore games. Multi-platform, premium, maybe with DLC, but still kind of not the modern model. And it just felt like he was at home. Like it was so much his heart in it, and like it's just gathered this momentum. There was no way of stopping this guy. So at some point, of course, I gave him some money, and he's doing very well. It's not obviously like a sort of a venture scale kind of business, but it could be, and if he does it right it could be eventually that. So just just somebody with a real heart in it,
We've got 4 more minutes. Is there anyone who wants to ask any questions?
Very quick hand. So I feel that. Oh, thank you. Are we out of time?
Thanks for the talk. What is your thoughts on VR and AR at the moment?
Oh, it's disappointed us so much. Like it's so fucking slow. Just kill me already. Like I love these formats, I really do. But like, there's no users. Even my good friends who have even broken even with their projects, have left it now. The CCP, I believe, broke even, or maybe even made a bit of money, but that's not enough for a successful game company. Other people have, I don't know.
My thoughts is I've never invested in VR. I have no plans to.
I have.
AR, I'm a much bigger believer in it.
Yeah.
Only because I think the consumer experience will be much better once you have like just a normal set of glasses that can give you that AR experience.
But we're so far from that.
We are so far from that, but it'll come, or even be able to be served up in contact lenses at some point.
Like 4 years ago, I was telling people, like, if you're doing VR, raise money for 4 years. And that like turned out not to be enough, And I feel sorry for whoever followed my advice.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if any of you have seen, there's been what they call the VR apocalypse in the US, where all these companies raise loads of money and they're going bust.
Yeah.
AR is a lot more interesting to me.
By the way, I was also giving predictions 4 years ago that VR would all be about games and not so much industrial uses, and now it's all industrial uses. Yeah. Complete idiot. Yeah.
Yeah.
One more? Yeah, or whoever.
Okay, so to extend on that question, what platforms are you actively looking at? Mobile, PC, web, consoles?
It's a good question.
Anything ruling out?
I think it's a mix of those. I mean, not console. That's a big boy's business.
Not solely, no. Or even primarily.
Yeah, I mean,
mobile is still good.
Mobile is probably the single biggest opportunity, just because there's so many billions of smartphones out there. But it's really about the team and how big an opportunity that, and how achievable is it for them to get there, and is it a big enough opportunity, and not just necessarily game development, but is it a platform or service that's going to help game developers in maybe other categories, like Unity.
Sure.
So it's you just have to think. I mean, you just and you can go on Crunchbase these days and say, all right, well, how many VR companies have raised money in the last 12 months? Not too many.
Did anyone?
I don't know. Or, you know, you just think about the category, because, you know, smart investor's going to ask you those questions.
But yeah, mobile is good, PC is good.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what's coming with sort of, you know, what Steam has done and now Epic's store and other people is just, you know, I think PC is going to become an even bigger opportunity.
What do you think about voice?
I think voice is really interesting.
I don't know if you even are aware, there's like a category emerging of voice games.
Yeah. I think it's early days, but, you know, similar categories with podcasts. I know a podcast company is generating $3 million a month, just all 100% in advertising. So you can you need to get the users. And you can now do voice apps, just like a game app on the phone. You don't have to rely on all the Alexa hardware and all that stuff in terms of user base. You know, playing games by voice is obviously going to be a different experience for us because we haven't grown up with it. But
I've been super skeptical just because I don't like talking to my devices. But I mean, kids seem to be doing it, so I guess, you know, younger, smarter people might be able to see that.
But I mean, I'm, you know, if it's super early, I'm really driven by the founder. My belief in the founder can sort of figure things out. That's what it really comes down to.